What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of the Ring Show. It is your host. My name is Harley. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. You know, I'm not used to it just being me, but it's fine because I'm killing it. Sabrina's doing her thing. I'm doing my thing. It's totally fine. But I'm not going to hold you any longer. Let's give a warm welcome to our guest, Dan the Champion. Or just Dan.
Or Dan Champion. It is Dan Champion.
Either or. Whatever.
Dan the Champion might be something you hear soon in PPW.
No, we want to hear that because on the topic of that, you have a match at PPW on May 20th against SPF, Primal Fear, and the Brothers Gray for the titles. So I kind of want to. I'm not a fan. Like I was just saying, I'm not a fan of SPF. So if I see you guys kick their ass,
yeah,
great night.
Yeah, it's going to be easy. Me and Havoc are going to go in there like we have so far and win the match, and we'll be new tag team champions. No doubt about it.
Exactly. I think that's what we need because SPF had the title a gazillion different times in PPW. Primal Fear, they had their up and running run. So now it's time to let's switch it up. And the crowd, they love you in their own way. They just can't admit that.
How can't you love?
Right?
Dan Champion and Havoc. How can you not love?
Exactly. Like I see the little kids busting on you all the time. They love you in a different way than usual.
Right.
But usually on this podcast, we'll start with who or what got you into wrestling.
So I was into wrestling when I was a kid, probably like everybody else. And in high school, me and my friends, we started backyard wrestling, which people don't want to admit, but we did. Some of my friends are still wrestle. Lucky 13, who's an independent wrestler. Orange Cassidy, who's on national TV. We all wrestled in a backyard in high school. So after we got done doing that, we went to like a wrestling school and got trained. And yeah, I've been wrestling ever since. So I'm on like year 20, which is crazy, which is super crazy that I'm on year 20 right now. Still doing my thing.
Definitely. So with that being said, like who trained you?
A bunch of people trained me. I'll just keep it at that.
So how long did you train before you actually had your first
match? Probably a year, I think. It's been a long time, but I think a year. Sounds about right.
And I mean, in PPW, you're like you and Havoc are like heels. Do you prefer to be heels or do you prefer to be like a face?
I just do my thing, and however people react is how they react. If they don't like me, well, then I just assume they're a loser in life. But if they like me, I assume they're like an awesome person. So yeah, I don't go out there trying to get one way or another reaction. I'm just Big Dan, and however the chips lay, they lay.
No, yeah, definitely. I know you're a top fan with Nolan Pierce's mom and his sister. They're big fans of Big Dan. We just went to Connecticut and Rhode Island last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and they're like, yo, I see Big Dan's coming on the podcast. I'm like, they were super excited. I'm like, well, you got to tune in and see what he has to say.
Yeah.
They're always saying something positive about you. They're like, oh, the way he interacts with the children, they hate him, but it's fine. It's cool. It's fun. But you said this is your 20th year. Do you have any advice? Like if those little kids come up to you and be like, I want to do what you're doing.
Right.
What advice can you give to them?
I would say just keep grinding, keep hitting the gym. Like somebody who is maybe just starting in wrestling. I would just say like keep hitting the gym, keep showing up to places. Expand your network's probably the biggest. It's a lot of who as shitty as it is to say. Expand your network, look good, keep training, and look for opportunities, and watch what you do on social media. I guess you don't want to be a pity party, or you want to be the butt of a joke. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And that's like something me and Sabrina said all the time. Like, watch what you do on social media because you could say one thing and like someone could turn it into a whole different thing. And then in wrestling, they don't admit it, but everyone talks in wrestling. Like, you could tell one person one thing and then they'll switch it. And it's like, just be careful, because you don't want to have that character like you're this bad person when you're really not.
Absolutely.
But that's like for college as well. You got to watch, because they look into that. They don't want some bad kid. But, so what would you say is the hardest part of wrestling for you?
Anymore, it's the hardest part is the traveling. So going to Slate anything isn't too bad. That's kind of close to me. But last year I wrestled in Chicago and Indiana and Vermont and Massachusetts and Virginia. The traveling, the 12-hour car trip to wrestle, then driving back, that's the hardest part, honestly, for me.
Because a lot of people always say, like, it's the traveling or being away from your family. Or yeah.
No, it's definitely traveling. Like, I wrestled last summer in Chicago, and I was with a few people, but at the same time, still, like, you drive 12 hours. Maybe you're at the building for 6 hours, and then you get in your car and drive 12 hours back. Yeah. So that's kind of rough, but, it's a little bit fun, too.
And on the topic of the different states, do you see a difference in the crowds from Chicago and Pennsylvania?
Well, I get a better reaction out here because I'm a little bit more well-known than, say, Chicago. But no, not really. A wrestling fan's a wrestling fan no matter where you're at.
Definitely, yeah. So in the chat, we have Joe saying nice. My dad's always the hype man. He's cheering your name over and over again.
Appreciate that.
It says, people gossip too much.
Yeah, that's true.
So you said the hardest part for you. What would you say is the easiest part?
The easiest part of wrestling? I don't know. Having fun. Like, that's easy. You go out there and you just have fun. It comes naturally. So having fun, having a good time. Like, a lot of times you see your friends, or like when we wrestled the Batiri, they're good friends of mine and I haven't seen them in a while. So that was a lot of fun to catch up with them. So the easy part is just having fun and, being your true self and, seeing people, meeting people and seeing people, like reconnecting with people.
100%. Like, in the wrestling world, it's always like someone knows someone else. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't know you knew them. Yeah. And like Katari, they were just at PPW. And I was like, they look so different in ring. And I was like, oh, that's them. Like, wow, they don't look like that. But they were really nice. And I was doing my homework earlier, looking on your pages at your old matches and stuff. I'm like, oh, they are really friends, and seeing all this. So it was cool. But my dad goes and says, what match that you've had so far that pushed you to your limit?
I just had a match last Saturday in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for LVAC. And it was a handicap match, 2-on-1. And it was rough. It's hard to see now, but I got my face busted open. It was really hot in the building. It was a long match. So that pushed me to my limit. Other matches that I had that pushed me to my limit. Same thing with LVAC. We had a match at Steel Stacks that probably had like 1,400 people there. And it was me. Hopefully you know these names. What was my team? Now that I'm thinking about it, it was me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't think of the teams, but there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of people there. We were the main event. Orange Cassidy was on another team. Delirious was on their team, who's a Ring of Honor guy. So there were some big names on the card, and we had to deliver, and we did deliver. But it was a lot of pressure.
No, yeah, definitely. Orange Cassidy. There's a fan. You probably know him. His name is Gavin. That goes to the wrestling event.
Yeah.
Dresses up. He did Orange Cassidy, I think, maybe a month or two ago, and I was like, bro, this kid, he's gonna be something one day.
So I've known Orange. So me and Orange, we went to grade school together. I've known him since 4th grade, and we went to high school. And it's just it's crazy to see one of your like friends. So he's not like, you have wrestling friends, but he's a friend. See somebody become like famous, like you see his figure at Walmart. It's kind of crazy. It's a little bit out of this world,
No, yeah, definitely.
But it's awesome at the same time,
100%. Yeah, because like in wrestling, everyone's friend. But in like, you gotta think, are those people actually gonna be there for you like on the outside of wrestling? Because they could be one way in there, but on the outside, they could be a whole different
Yeah,
person. But I
absolutely.
totally get that. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm your friend. And then they're like, so they don't talk to you outside of wrestling. So we're not really friends, but
Right, right.
it works. But my dad goes and says, have you ever had a major injury that made you think twice about still putting on a show for wrestling fans?
No, thankfully, no. Like I said, a Saturday I got my mouth busted open in the match, but that wasn't too bad. But I've never had, knock on wood, like a real bad injury. Your typical bumps and bruises.
Yeah.
But I've never had to like go to the hospital for anything, or nothing more than like a cut or a bruise or anything like that.
Lucky, because a lot of people always like, oh, I broke this or I tore
Yeah,
this. So, but you've been doing it for a while, so that's kind of good for you though.
yeah.
But a question that we usually have is like a lot of wrestlers do hardcore matches. Have you ever been in a hardcore match?
Not really. I wrestled last year a guy named Ultramantis Black. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's an ultra car guy. He's done some hardcore matches. I wrestled him in Philly, and we had thumbtacks and a garbage can. But that was about as hardcore as I've got, like doing stuff with thumbtacks. And we had a garbage can, a chair, but nothing too crazy. But I've done that. I've done thumbtacks.
Wow.
But yeah, I would never like do anything like too nuts. Like I can't scar myself.
Yeah. I'll wrestle for you, but I'm not gonna like physically hurt myself
Right.
like that. Because there's been some crazy matches like with mouse traps, glass bottles. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm like, no, I'm okay. That's why I always say, like, we gave you the advice for if they want to become a wrestler. Me personally, I'm like, you guys can do the hard work, but I'll be your manager.
Right.
I'm
Smart.
loud. I'm like,
Yeah, that's smart.
you could take the bumps for me. I'll stand over here. But no, yeah. So, what are your favorite moves you like to perform against your opponent?
So I've one called the Champion Cutter, which is a TKO, like Mark Merrow used to do back in the day. I do a deadlift suplex. I think I've done it at most PPW shows where the guy's on his back and I just suplex him from the ground. I do like the avalanche bomb. I think I did that with the Bateri where I'm on the second rope and I kind of do a splash. I just do a splash. I like doing that. But those are my favorites.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. So, we're going to talk about that match like we mentioned at the beginning. How did you and Havoc become a tag team? Did they were just like, you two are going to work together, or was like there a backstory to it?
So, like, I remember watching Havoc when I was probably like 19 and he was wrestling with WXW. And I thought he was like 30, but he was actually 20, my age. And then years later, we kind of hooked up and we became friends. And we wrestled at the same places and traveled together, but we never were a tag team. So we thought this was a good opportunity to, just try a tag team. It's working. We haven't lost, though. It's working well.
I mean, I like that match that we mentioned. SPF, Primal Fear is good. The Brothers Gray, I haven't got to see them 100% perform yet. They were at PPW, but I've seen Primal Fear and I've seen SPF and I've seen you guys. So it was like, SPF. Right. But so let's kick SPF out the picture. We got Primal Fear and we got Dan and Havoc. So yeah. I think y'all are going to come out with the gold so you can actually see Dan the champion.
Yeah, Dan the champion, yeah.
That'll work. It'll fit. The crowd, they will love it. They won't like it at first, but they'll love it.
They'll learn to like it.
Yeah, exactly. They'll just adjust to it.
Yeah.
So do you do anything like before you come out the curtain, like a warm-up?
Yeah. I'm old, so I got to stretch. So I just pump myself up. I stretch. I kind of get the muscle bands. I pump, try to get a good pump. I try to get a little bit of a sweat. If there's room to run, I'll like do some jogging or some sprints. But yeah, definitely warm up.
100%. Yeah, because if you make a wrong move out there, you're going to end up breaking something or tearing something. But
yeah,
you got to do your own thing, because we had some people that talk to me. They say they talk to mirrors before they come out, drink energy drinks. So it's a question. It's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
So who is your dream opponent? Singles or tag?
Oh man, I think my singles would be living, like somebody that's like a real possibility, or somebody in the past.
Whoever, if they could come back to life, if they're deceased.
I think like a dream opponent would be like Mick Foley. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
A tag, maybe like the Rockers.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say those would be my answers.
I mean, you'll work great with Mick Foley. I've seen him a long time ago. But as for me, for PPW, I think you would go great in a tag with you and Havoc against the Trumpets of the Apocalypse, which is Crow and Phil Insane.
Right.
That'll be a brutal match. I mean, Phil Insane, he scares me.
They'd stand no chance, though.
I'll just be there like, damn, this is happening. But Phil Insane, he's tall and he's scary compared to me. Like, I can't defend myself in any way, so you can.
I'm tall too, so.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I remember seeing you at PPW. We were talking. I was like, you're tall.
Yeah.
Phil Insane's tall, so I think that kind of works.
Right.
Like, there may be sometimes. Do you ever were you ever in a match with someone shorter than you, and do you feel like there's
somebody shorter than me? Yeah, like every match.
Yeah, that's true. But do you feel there's any does it make it harder facing someone shorter than you, or
no? Makes it easier. They're tiny.
Yeah.
Big Dan squishes them like a bug.
Yeah, y'all heard it here. But Dan says I can see Dan against the Ultimate Warrior.
That'd be a dream match. Yeah, I used to love the Ultimate Warrior. That'd be awesome.
100%. So as for a singles match, I think I can see you facing Bro Keller, who's also at PPW. I mean, he already got a match for May, and you already got a match for May. So I mean, we got time. Maybe that'll happen.
I'll beat him too.
He's a good one, I think.
Yeah, he's all right.
he's fine until Dan.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. He's no Dan Champion.
Exactly, and that's what Nolan Pierce's mom always tells me. He's like, that ain't Dan the Champion. Nothing compares to him.
That's right. She knows.
So if AEW and WWE called, which one would you take?
I'd go to AEW because a lot of my friends are there, and that's what matters to me.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people are like, the money, this, the money, that.
Yeah.
You gotta feel like whether it's like the story of like what you grew up watching or whatever. Like now, a lot of people say AEW because that's what a lot of these newer generations been watching. But
yeah.
Whatever.
No, I'm like I said, I'm friends with Orange Cassidy. I'm friends with 2.0. I'm friends with John Silver. I'm friends with a lot of guys in AEW, so it'd be cool to like hang out with them every day.
No, definitely. So another question that we ask on here is, how do you feel about intergender wrestling?
Oh, it's great.
Have you ever been in a?
Oh yeah, a bunch. More times than I can count. I wrestled in Philly on Sunday. That was an intergender match. I've wrestled like Erica Lee. I've wrestled Edith Surreal. I wrestled Abby. I wrestled Abby Jane. I've wrestled a lot of women wrestlers, and no, it's great.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, definitely. My dad goes and says, what about Ring of Honor or New Japan Wrestling or Impact? Out of those three, if you had to choose one, which one?
Ring of Honor. Same reason. I have friends there.
Perfect. There you go. And my dad goes and says, Dan versus Goldie. Kick Goldie's ass. If you are not familiar with Goldie, he wrestles at AXW in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and he needs to be squashed like a bug.
I'll squash Goldie. I don't know who Goldie is, but I'll squash Goldie.
Yeah, I'll be like, yo, AXW, you need to get Dan on this show and to squash him because he's one of Sabrina's favorite, but not for me. He's just, no.
Count me in.
Exactly. We need Dan in there and squash him. Easy as that.
Easy as that.
Have you ever wrestled at a venue and you were like, yes, I like this place, this stands out to me, or they're all different?
Oh my God, yeah. So I like wrestling in weird places. So, well, before I say that, like wrestling I don't know if you've ever been to Steel Stacks in Bethlehem. but
No,
it's like it's right near the casino, but it's like a major venue where real people play. So that was awesome. Wrestling Steel Stacks was really cool. But I've wrestled in a mall. I've wrestled at a brewery. I've wrestled in a parking lot. These oddball places I love wrestling at. Like wrestling in a mall was really cool. I wrestle at bars all the time, but like things like that, like kind of cool. Like PPW is kind of cool because it's like a public market, so that's cool. But like wrestling just had like a Legion Hall that's just a building for wrestling. That's all right. But like when you wrestle in some place that's like wild, like the public market, there's people walking around that don't know what wrestling is and they see it. That's cool.
exactly. Yeah. And like that's something that happens at PPW. They'll just be shopping and hearing like this continuous noise of the wrestlers falling on the match, and they'll peek their head in like, oh, what is happening here? Well, they have a drink. So I think it fits for adults because they can drink and watch wrestling.
Absolutely.
So
all those places are cool. Like any place that it seems like wrestling shouldn't belong, but it's there.
Exactly.
I'm in.
Exactly. And like AXW is at the field house that like a lot of the old wrestlers can't tell you about because I'm still fairly new to, well, not new to wrestling, but I'm a baby. Wasn't born in like Mick Foley time.
Right.
Don't know all that, but a lot of them has wrestled there. So
yeah.
But a question that I was just gonna ask, but my dad stole it from me. He goes and says, "What is your dream venue to wrestle at? Like what arena?"
I don't know. I guess Madison Square Garden would be cool. I mean, that's big dreams, but like I've wrestled at ECW Arena and like local places that people like kind of want to wrestle at. I've done that, but like a Madison Square Garden would be cool.
No, yeah, definitely. That's a popular one. They either say that or like the most randomest place is like an abandoned place. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. If that's where you want to wrestle, go for it.
Yeah.
But speaking of earlier, we said Nolan Pierce's mom. She goes and says, "Hey, we'll all have to go to one of the Bethlehem shows.
Definitely come out.
Support Dan." We're gonna go on a whole rant when we see her again at PPW. She'll be like, "Yo, Dan."
In Bethlehem, they like me a lot more than they like me in Slatington.
It's probably because of freaking Havoc.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But I may be wrong, but is this the first time you wrestled at PPW like these last couple times, or have you wrestled before?
No, these are my first times.
Yeah, I was gonna say because some people are like slowly coming back from their Hazleton show to now, so that's why I like asking. Maybe you've seen their old venue, and maybe now you could say like, what's the difference? But
yeah, well, I did wrestle at their venue that was in like Stroudsburg, I think it was.
So yeah, that was
there a couple times, but I like this new venue. It's pretty chill.
Definitely, like I said, they get to spend money before the show and then spend money after the show. There's a bar. A lot of adults like drinking. Can't go wrong.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'll be at PPW, be like, "Yo, Dan, you want to come on the podcast? Has way too many drinks. Yeah, let's do it." And we regret it afterwards. No, I'm just kidding. But y'all, if y'all haven't checked out PPW in Slatington, make sure you're checking them out, giving Dan a follow. All of that fun stuff. But do you have any merch? And if so, where can people find it?
Yeah, I have merch, 100%. I have an Instagram that is I am Dan Champion, and I think my Twitter is DanChamp4. But you can find it both. I have merch at both.
There you go.
You can see my shows and things like that.
Right. If you want to support Big Dan, as my other mama would say, she'd be like, Big Dan is the man. So make sure you're giving him a follow. But like my dad said earlier, your shirt kind of looks like the Ultimate Warrior. So how did you come up with like your own attire?
Like my merch?
Well, your merch, your gear, whatever.
So my my gear is pretty much a ripoff of the like 1992 Olympic Dream Team. It's not pretty much a ripoff. It is a ripoff. And a lot of my merch is like a ripoff of Grateful Dead stuff, like the skeletons and the tie-dye, things like that, the funky colors and fonts. That is also a ripoff. But the best wrestlers know where to rip off stuff. So
There you go.
there you go.
I mean, and how did you come up with Big Dan? Obviously,
So
Dan.
I used to wrestle under a different name, and then I was on a show, and Bryce, the AEW ref, just came out to me. He goes, "You're Dan Champion tonight." He's like, "I like that name," so it just kind of stuck, and people just started calling, like my friends just started calling me Big Dan, Big Dan, Big Dan. So that's the best thing. Like a good advice to young wrestlers is try to weave your real life into your wrestling character. So people call me Big Dan in real life. People who don't know I wrestle call me Big Dan. So it just kind of sticks with me, and it works. So,
I mean, that's how I was like when Nolan Pierce's mom was talking about Big Dan. I'm like, wait, Dan, like the champion, like the one that's coming on my podcast. She's like, yep. Highly good things come from her about you. I'm like, yep, he's coming on the podcast. We were trying to convince Nolan Pierce's sister to host with me, but she's a little camera shy. It's fine, But they support you 100% at the shows. They'll be cheering. I'm like, damn, y'all be loud. But you'll start hearing me. Gotta get familiar to the faces.
Yeah.
But my dad goes and says, after your very first match, what went through your mind after going through that wall?
What wall?
Like, okay, so we were talking about your first match, like going through the curtain, I guess you could say.
I was just nervous. Don't mess up. Scared. I mean, there's only like 7 people in the crowd. My first match, so. But I was nervous,
Yeah, I mean, do you now being into wrestling for like 20 years, do you still get that like nervous feeling like, oh, if I mess up, someone's gonna criticize?
Yeah, it's not nervous. It's just exciting, like the butterflies in your stomach. I mean, there's all those feelings. Yeah, you get a little bit of a rush.
And do you ever like watch your matches back and like self-criticize yourself? Yeah. Because a lot of people seem to do that.
100%.
Me and Sabrina, we had our show at UCW, and it was like our first time doing like not commentary, but like being a ring announcer. And we would do after match interviews, and it was like, oh my God, we would do one and we'd be like, oh my God, we just messed this up. People are gonna criticize us. And then like after a show, everyone's like, oh my God, you did so good. Like, are you sure? Yeah. Did you not notice what I said? But
never listen to what people tell you to your face if they're being nice.
Sometimes. I guess. No, I'm just kidding. So you said you wrestled in Bethlehem, you wrestled in Chicago, you wrestle obviously in Slatington. What other like states have you wrestled in or currently wrestling?
I wrestled in Montreal. I wrestled in Vermont, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan. I think that's it. That's all.
Is there anywhere that you haven't wrestled that you want to wrestle at?
Like promotions?
Yeah, promotions, states, countries, wherever.
Like promotions, I pretty hit off. I've hit my bucket list. Like I've wrestled at I've done the Beyond shows, Beyond Wrestling. I've done the AIW, which was a big one for me. I love doing LVAC. I did Chikara back in the day. All the big ones I've hit. Like it's more travel wise now. Like I'd like to go to California. If somebody would pay for me to go around the world, I'd love that. Like Japan, if somebody would pay for me to go to Japan, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But like my bucket list places I've wanted to wrestle, I've hit. So that's a good feeling.
No, yeah. And like you said, you've wrestled. This is like your 20th year. Yeah. Do you think it's going to be like an injury thing that stops you, or is it going to be like...
I don't know.
I
hope it's not an injury thing. I think it's on my own. I'm 39. I just turned 39. I feel good. I feel in shape. I feel like I can still move. I feel like I don't look like an embarrassment out there. So I'm going to do it. Until I feel like I'm not wanted, or when I feel like I don't connect with the crowd anymore is when I'll quit.
And do you think like after you quit, would you still want to be involved in wrestling, whether it's like you training or commentary or manager?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
I keep saying I'm not an SPF fan. I think the crowd's seen enough. Like, all love to them. But me personally, I'm not a fan. So I think they need to kind of
No.
retire.
Yeah, I agree. They
They
do.
need to do their thing.
No, I agree.
But if you had to cut a promo to sell yourself to WWE or AEW, what would you say for them to like pick your venue? Or like pick you for their venue, I mean.
Just, I'm Big Dan. Like, the story tells itself. I'm big, I'm athletic, I'm strong, I'm fast. I can do it all.
Yeah, just 3 words. I'm Big Dan.
I'm Big Dan. That's it.
And then
What
they'll be
else do
like,
you need?
yeah, come on our show. Have you face Roman Reigns and
Yeah.
Seth Rollins. Like, 'cause why not? It's your
Why
big
not?
Dan. But no, that's cool. So do you like okay, so you've been at PPW. Did you notice anyone there that you were like, I want to face them one day? Like the
Yeah. Facade. Absolutely. Nolan Pierce.
100%. His mom would love that.
So there's Facade, Nolan Pierce. Ricky Martinez. I've known Ricky Martinez for a long time. I'd like to wrestle him. And Phil Insane. That'd be cool. All those guys.
No, definitely. I think if you guys win those tag titles, I think they're gonna have you go against Phil Insane and Crow, and I'm gonna be like, I don't know what's gonna happen here, but I'll be like, oh my god.
I'll tell you what happened. I'm gonna win. So
Okay. I mean, Crow is probably gonna be the only short dude in that ring.
Yeah,
But you're gonna just squash him like a bug.
that's true.
I know Nolan's mom is not a fan of, I don't think she's a fan of Crow. So she'll be like, she'll have a sign, she'll be cheering loud. She'll have one too many drinks, she'll be like, yeah, Big Dan for the win. I'm like, girl, okay. But my dad says Big Dan versus Omos.
And he's too big.
He'll squash you like a bug.
Yeah, he's too big.
But Nolan's mom goes and says, no, she wouldn't. Don't know about what, but okay. And then my dad goes and says, Nolan all the way if you face him. It's kind of heated. Because how could
yeah, I don't want to face him. He might take me. I don't want that.
Nolan Pierce? I mean, he's getting up there. He's learning day by day.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that's cool. So you said PPW. What other upcoming shows do you have?
I have, let me think here. I have a show. So at PPW, I have a show called Old Time Wrestling, which is in Ohio. I have LVAC coming up, which is at the Mahoning Valley Drive-In, which is, I think, close to the PPW shows. I have a Labor Love show in Philly coming up. I think I have a Fight Wrestling show coming up in Philly too. I have a Rad Pro Wrestling show coming up in Massachusetts. So I'm all over the place in the next few months.
Exactly. So if you guys want to follow Dan or Big Dan on his journey, make sure you're giving him a follow, a subscribe, a follow on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever he mentioned earlier, because you're going to see all the gold that he's going to get. You're going to want to see him kick SPF's ass, Primal Fear's ass, and win that gold with Havoc. So you're not going to want to miss anything. Make sure you're giving PPW a follow so you also won't miss all the matches and shows they'll be having in the future. But usually the podcast goes to an hour, but sometimes when we get through the questions quicker, it's fine. We do that. You already said your Instagram, your Facebook. And if they can find you again, where can they find you on social media?
Awesome.
So thank you so much for coming on. Well, guys, give him a follow like I just said. Make sure you're supporting him at PPW, all the other shows he just said. And yeah, have a great night.
You too. Thank you.